Chaos Dwarfs got quite a few tweaks in the 3.1 update. Between buffs and nerfs, the roster has changed somewhat. Today we're going to be taking a look at Qualiduck from the XMT Discord, dropping this replay, including 2 Kadai Fireborn and the newly fixed Iron Demon, specifically the ROR here, the Demon's Tongue, which of course has a flamethrower attack. We should get to see that as it fires now on the move, and actually can do so correctly. Of course, the Fireborn, I believe, got a leadership buff. Yeah, so even though they are unbreakable while this ability is active, that ability here, if I can find it, this Burning Bright now deactivates at 25% HP, and also they just have higher base leadership anyway. For the rest of the build here, as Spear Slopnir drops in and just clean misses these Granite Guard, got some Hobgobbo Cutthroats up front, and then if Infernal Guard, Fireglaves in the back line, Drazoath the Ashen up on his mount here, going with that Demon Spite Crucible to give him some extra spell mastery. He's also got the Amulet, so very expensive kit overall, but looks like Burning Breath, yeah, for the mount obviously, Burning Wrath, the spell, and Hellhammer. Definitely looking for some DPS output. On the Warriors of Chaos side, we've got Valkia, which is a bit of an odd choice here, considering her flaming damage. Still overall very solid combatant, but yeah, these Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes just getting absolutely melted by the flamethrower of the Iron Demon. So now that these things can fire on the move, I wonder if we'll now term them a little bit broken because of how powerful they are. Certainly this flamethrower one seems extremely strong. It just got a huge amount of value there on a couple of volleys. Got a Shadow Sorcerer, some Marauders, a couple of Chaos Armor Trolls. Pretty terrible pick against Chaos Dwarfs, in my opinion, because of their weakness to fire. But anyway, overall a good unit in a lot of situations. Chosen of Slanesh, a couple of them with whips, which is an interesting choice. And some Chaos Halberd Warriors. So, yeah, a little bit of an odd build from the Warriors of Chaos, I do admit. Looks like some Hellstriders over here on the side. But we're going to be focused on the Iron Demon now. Flamethrower attack, of course, just blasting some trolls point blank in the face. Does manage to get an avenue to escape, and with its more power active, is able to easily bust out of that situation there. So, some nice early disruption. We do see a Pit of Shades, though, going off on those Granite Guards. Pretty expensive ranged unit to be hit by that. Also gets a hold of those Cutthroats. So, Chaos definitely not going quietly into that good night. Valkia pops her Demon Shield, going to go into combat with Drazoath. Even with the fire resistance, I'm still not sure that's a great engagement for him. It is 35% fire resistance, which is pretty hefty, it must be said. But, yeah. Valkia is still a pretty strong combatant overall, although he does have a lot more HP, so he could probably win that fight, to be honest. Yeah, a little bit of an odd choice, like I said, taking Valkia here. I think in this matchup, there's a few ways you could go, but definitely, I'd probably go with Sarthrel, honestly. His AoE magic damage is probably the best, and Chaos Dwarfs tend to be weak to it to a certain degree. Not to mention his Zinchian barrier makes it pretty easy to keep alive unless you mess up horribly. But anyway, Fireborn moving in here now. They've got the sport of some guns nearby, so should be going pretty well for them. Flames of Azor? No, that's the Hellhammer just went off there and did some damage to those guys in the back line. But yeah, slowly but surely the Chaos Infantry are kind of working their way forward. They'll be able to take out those Cutthroats no problem. But let's kind of keep a wide view. I just mostly want to see how this Iron Demon is going to perform. You can see it does have interrupted line of sight here. Even though, I mean, the Hobgoblins are pretty tall, actually. They're about as tall as humans, more or less. I mean, maybe a little bit shorter because they're kind of hunched over, but they're certainly bigger than regular Gobbos. So it's having a hard time firing over top of them. Let's see if it can maybe switch targets into another position. Got the Trolls charging straight into where the Fireborn are. Not the best idea, I think. I mean, stats-wise, these units are pretty comparable, actually, in many ways. But the Fireborn do have a little bit more weapon strength, and that flaming damage means they should be able to win out that engagement. But right now, it looks like they're actually pulling away to help Drazoath in the front line there. Fireglaves, again, dealing fire damage. Gonna just wreck those Stone Trolls, but not before they themselves get wrecked by another Pit of Shades. Nicely placed. Gonna do some nice damage to a high-value target, although with the way the Pit of Shades have been used in this particular battle, might have been better off to go with Fate of Buna just to snipe specific high-value targets, although I guess Pit of Shades is technically cheaper than Buna. Anyway, Caster does get charged by Drazoath here. And despite everything, the Chosen of Slaanesh and these halberds are holding out fairly well in this little pocket. Although the Fireborn are still getting some pretty solid damage on them. Fireborn duking it out against the Trolls, and the Iron Demon there in the back, using its flamethrower attack to absolutely melt those Marauders. Also helps the, oh, I didn't realize they actually had pickaxes. I thought they just had straight up axes. That's really interesting, actually. These, Granite Guard here. They're going to continue to get some charges from the Hellstriders, and I'm not sure why there's no music playing. Maybe that's a new bug in this 3.1 update. I have noticed, maybe there is music playing and I just can't hear it. Maybe you guys can hear it. Anyway, I've noticed quite a few bug reports on 3.1, and I'm not sure there's enough, especially on the campaign side, that there might be a hotfix. I haven't heard anything about that, but wouldn't be surprised given the amount of issues that cropped up in 3.1 if we did see a small hotfix released. Especially since Creative Assembly's focus is going to be on Pharaoh. And anyway, yeah, I don't know that we'll have Warhammer, like a full Warhammer patch for quite some time, so they may need to hotfix some things. But we'll see. Right now, certainly getting hot in here for Valkia as the Fireborn continue to fight it out here. She's been fighting against these halberds, which is, or I guess the bayonets. Of the Infernal Guard here, which is not crazy efficient for her. I mean, they're not anti-infantry, so they aren't going to be doing that much damage to her. Also, over here, Chosen of Slaanesh are quite tanky. They seem like overall a fairly solid unit. They were able to grind through, despite everything, I mean, not really a surprise, but grind through all those Hobgoblin Cutthroats and really take this build down a notch. You can see Drazoath here is also kind of getting ground down by them. So definitely watch out for those Slaanesh, the Warriors with whips and the Chosen with whips. They're pretty good, very tanky, very hard to kill. But there is enough with magic damage on, and just overall high enough burst, of course. Another way to deal damage to these Slaanesh Chosen is to shoot them, as they have very high melee defense. It's a much more reliable way to get damage onto them. It's just to blast them. Right, so... Yeah, although the Iron Demon hasn't actually been shooting on the move that much here, hasn't really been used that much as a chariot, you absolutely could be cycle charging it through this entire time, and it arguably might even be better. The fact that you could, like, rear charge, and as you're going into rear charge, you'll be blasting, especially that flamethrower point blank is going to be doing insane amount of damage, but even just there, like, we kind of saw it counter-skirmishing cavalry a little bit, like light cavalry, and was able to do so very effectively with that flamethrower attack. Paid for itself, which is nice to see. I think actually it's 1350 exactly for the ROR. We'll have to double check that, but both the Fireborn also pay for themselves basically, which is nice to see. Very cool unit. I was always a little bit sad that they weren't what they needed to be. And here, I mean, they're fighting not necessarily direct counters to them. Obviously, if they're fighting like Chosen halberds or, you know, just lots and lots of Chaos halberds, they would definitely have a rough time. But against even like these Slaanesh Chosen, they're a great unit because they're magic damage. They're great against the Trolls, so I actually really like them now, thinking about it in this matchup, and maybe a couple of others now. If they're going to be more reliable, certainly you can heal them as well with the heroes, the hero casters. Anyway, yeah, should be interesting. The Granite Guard also, despite eating that Pit of Shades, actually did perform reasonably well. Should be seeing a little bit more of them now that their reload skill is fixed as well. From the Chaos side, a little bit of an odd build here. I would definitely change the composition of this to a fair degree, in terms of, yeah, the magic selection I don't necessarily hate, although I'd probably go with Lord of Metal, like I said. Valkia also for the flaming attacks is definitely not worth it here, but let's go ahead and just quickly talk about it. I go over to the army selection screen, talk a little bit more about Warriors of Chaos. So Harold's pretty expensive, and he's more specialized against the undead, so I'd definitely not take him here. I would not take any Trolls, but Sarth himself, Searing Doom is fantastic. Final Transmutation is very good. You definitely want to keep Greater Arcane Conduit, and then kind of go from there. Maybe you want Metal Shifting and Standard Die if you have the gold left over. It does get him into a relatively expensive kit, but still, you definitely have some options. And then, yeah, it just depends on what direction you want to go. Obviously, the Chaos Dwarf shooting means it's very tough to be able to operate, you know, monsters effectively. Although you do have a fair amount of disruption, so I'm not a Warriors of Chaos expert by any means, but Yeah, just kind of thinking through things here a little bit. The Chosen of Slanesh are fairly solid. I'd probably get like 3 Chaos Warrior Halberds just to have some more anti-large flexibility, because I mean, Chaos Dwarfs also, a good chance they'll try and do some type of monster melee rush here. Yeah, I don't know. See, the thing is, trolls are very good and cost-effective and reasonably fast armor-piercing damage, right? And if you're thinking about your other armor-piercing options, like Chaos Warriors are relatively slow. They can catch, I mean, 28 speed. I guess, can they even catch Chaos Dwarf Infantry, or is it the same speed? I think it's probably the same speed, honestly, to go after slightly faster than the Infernal Guard, but basically the same speed as the Blunderbusses, so you're going to have a little bit of a tough time catching them. Yeah. I'd have to actually maybe workshop this a little bit, but maybe I'd start from this base here and kind of work from there and try out some different things. There's a possibility if you just go super wide with like AP Marauders that you still have enough AP to be able to get through in the right scenarios, or else just give you enough meat shield time to get enough magic damage out from Sarthrel to be effective. Yeah, I mean, terms of how to counteract that Iron Demon, of course, just pursuing with Sarthrel himself, you could maybe take a couple of Manticores, since they also had their mask get buffed here. Maybe they're a little bit better now in this matchup. I mean, Dragon Ogres on paper with the missile resistance would be nice here, but they're so expensive. And like the Shaggoth, for example, without any healing, again, 25% missile resistance is really, it's not going to be enough. So kind of rambled on long enough for this one. I don't know. Maybe I'll go workshop this matchup a little bit with some people and come back and tell you what I think. But from the Warriors of Chaos side, Valkia just seems like a pretty terrible idea. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.